After cutting Nicholas Latifi, Williams is looking to replace him with a young and up-and-coming American driver. We have Lando Norris, who claims that he almost made the move to another team when he was trying to sort out his contract for the future of his F1 career. And we have an old face potentially returning to Red Bull. Let's get right into it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Formula One Digest. I'm your host, Tyson Silva. I'm joined by my co-host, Mark, a noted McLaren fan. And Mark, we have some crazy news that's going on right now with the Williams team, as they are potentially getting Logan Sargeant to drive for them next year, pending a super license that he's supposed to hopefully get by the end of the year. Mark, what is with American drivers and not having their super license, first of all? And second of all, what can we expect from Logan Sargeant if he gets the gig?
I mean, the situation with those drivers not getting their super license could come down to America just not being there quite yet when it comes to the FIA point system. I know Logan Sargeant has done a lot of European Formula racing, racing in F3 and F2, also in the likes of the European Le Mans series. He just doesn't have enough points yet. It's also because he's so young in his career right now. He just doesn't have the points amassed. Now, the other situation with Colton Herta, it's the fact that he hadn't participated in categories like Formula 2, Formula 3, any of those categories. So that's what really stunted Colton Herta's chances from joining F1. But Logan Sargeant, on the other hand, he's a little closer to getting the right amount of points for the super license. And I think that we can expect some very big things from Logan coming into the Williams team if that is the case. I believe that his F2 drive this year has been a bit up and down, but it's been solid. He's got very good finishes in most races. He's had a lot of crashes, or not a lot, but he's had a handful of crashes that could have been avoided. So that might be something that Williams looks at. It might not be, because they do seem to be set to want this driver. But I think generally speaking, he's a very, very good fit for the team right now in their position.
Definitely. And, we've seen a lot of it with guys like Alex Albon and even Nicholas Latifi, who was coming from F2. Obviously, Alex had a stint with Red Bull, but it wasn't a major stint. It was like about a year and a half, I think. They've definitely had the habit of taking younger drivers, like even George Russell, and sort of developing them, and then eventually these drivers seem to go on to better things, unless you're Alex Albon, who kind of got a bit of a demotion in the F1 grid. But I think that this guy could definitely be not the American F1 star that we wanted, but the one that, not to quote The Dark Knight, but maybe F1 needs, because he is an F2. Fans would know him there, and they're going to follow his career as it goes on. So we'll definitely see what happens with Logan. Do you think that this means that Mick Schumacher is more or less out of the running for the Williams seat?
Probably,
Yeah.
But I don't think that means he's out of contention for a seat, per se. I think that it's a very good possibility that Haas keeps its continuity and continues on with Mick. I think that this year was a very good step for him. It was a very big step for him, moving into a new regulation of car and handling it very well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I struggle with Mick Schumacher and whether or not he's going to be on the grid is just, does he have the like special touch that all these other drivers have that keep them so consistent? Like even guys like Lando and Norris, who aren't even in the best car, are still getting decent points finishes with Mick. Now, while part of it is that he's not in the best car, that can only be part of the reason. Like, some of these drivers have been in worse cars but have still done so much with it. You look at what Max Verstappen did last year in the second best car on the grid compared to the Mercedes. Like, I think that we've both had to talk about it, and even Gunther Steiner and Gene Haas has said that Mick has cost the team a lot of money with his accidents and with things like that. He needs to show the team that he still has potential to be good in this league, and that he's meant to be there. So until we see that, I don't know what the future of Mick is, but his chances of going to Williams is pretty slim as of right now.
Yeah, that's for sure. And just look at what Alex Albon has been able to do in the Williams as well. For the majority of the race in the United States just last week, he was running in the points and battling for points as well. So, I mean, it is also driver, it is also car. I mean, Mick might not be up to the standard, but, it is what it is. He's had his opportunity. If it's fleeting, it's fleeting. If he decides to sign with another team, or even if Haas decide to take him on again, then, I mean, that's what happens.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to be following his situation as the season kind of comes to an end. But of course, Mark, you're wearing the McLaren hat, and it's a very interesting day to be wearing it because recent reports have indicated that Lando Norris was really close to leaving McLaren and signing a deal with Red Bull. The rumor is right now that he was close to signing a 1-year deal, but it was the term on that deal that he just couldn't accept. He wanted a longer term deal. He ends up signing earlier this year with McLaren for another five years. Mark, do you think we just missed out on a potential just powerhouse of a Red Bull team with two young drivers at the wheel battling another young team in the Ferraris?
I don't think that would have been the case. I definitely don't think this would have been a good career choice for Lando. I think that in continuity's sake for Red Bull, it definitely wasn't a good choice. I mean, there's look how many times they've switched their drivers and have finally found a driver in Checo Perez who was able to deliver them a fighting chance at the Constructors' Championship and won it. So I don't think that it would have been a pairing made in heaven. Yes, Lando's a great driver, but the car is set up for Max, and Checo right now is struggling in it. And I think more or less Lando probably would have struggled in it as well. I do know they have raced together before in sim racing, but that's a whole different can of worms, sorry. And I don't think that that pairing would have done anything good on track.
Well, I don't know if I 100% agree with that. I think that, obviously Lando's a talented driver. I do agree with you when you say that it wouldn't have been the best career choice because Lando obviously wants to be a champion. He wants to win races. He's not going to do that behind Max Verstappen. But I think being in the Red Bull, especially say next year or maybe even, I don't know when the opportunity, was he supposed to be racing for McLaren this year or was the extension part of this year? I think this was the final year of his deal.
The extension was a part of this year.
Yeah, so I think that if Lando goes to Red Bull, you're almost looking at like a Vettel and Weber type of situation where they're two really good drivers, but Vettel obviously was the man for so many years, and it definitely was a good choice for Lando to stick with McLaren. Obviously, it's been a down year for them compared to what they did last year, or it's been like up and down, but hopefully, they'll be able to compete more next year. Obviously, we have a couple teams up and coming with Alpine and some other guys, so we're definitely going to have to follow what happens there, but I don't know. I think it would have been cool to have seen Lando and Max pair up for a year and battle with the Ferraris in Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, no, definitely. It would have been cool to see. But would it have been the smartest idea for either team? Probably not.
It's something we'll have to do in F1 Manager. But of course, at McLaren, they've had another driver that they've recently cut for the 2023 season. Dear old Daniel Ricciardo, Mark. And the guy's had a terrible weekend at the US Grand Prix. He finished second to last, and he probably would have finished last if Nicholas Latifi hadn't been given a penalty. How Nicholas Latifi got a penalty is beyond me. I'm surprised he didn't crash out. Um, I was the other Canadian that crashed out. But, looking at Daniel's career, obviously he's not having a seat for next year. And recent reports now are indicating that he may be closing in on a reserve driver role. He's obviously already said no to IndyCar. We already had showed that report that Daniel was offered a seat with McLaren's IndyCar team and he turned it down, saying he wants to stay in F1. He further kind of kept that narrative by saying I'm scared of ovals. So it looks like he's going to be a reserve driver for next year, and recent reports have indicated that Red Bull is the team that he's going to. Mark, Mercedes has also been in the mix. Where do you want to see Daniel Ricciardo end up, and what do you think makes the most sense?
Honestly, I like the idea of him going back to Red Bull as a reserve driver. Could he possibly get a seat when Checo's done? Perhaps. But I think the smartest direction for him to go is definitely the IndyCar side. I definitely think he could have done the IndyCar season. He doesn't even need to participate in the full season in IndyCar. There are drivers like Ed Carpenter who only participate in the ovals in the IndyCar season. There are drivers like Jimmy Johnson before he made his full-time debut last year or this year, who was only racing on the road courses. This is Jimmy Johnson, a 7-time NASCAR champion who said no to ovals in IndyCar and then made the switch this year to actually drive the ovals. Like, I don't know where this idea from Daniel is coming from that he doesn't like the ovals, because Roman Grosjean seemed to be doing fine on the ovals, and this is his second full season in IndyCar, and he's blown it out of the water. He's done so well for himself in it. There's a mixture of tracks. It's not just an oval series. They race at road courses. They race at street courses. And of course, yes, they race at ovals. You could totally skip the oval section, the oval parts of the season in IndyCar. Like, there are, I think, 4 oval races that they go to, 5 oval races that they go to. So they'll do the Indy 500. They'll do a race in 2 races in Texas, 2 races in Chicago, and 2 races in Iowa or somewhere. That's not a lot. And for him to miss out on those races, that's probably totally fine. And you can still probably contend for the championship. So he could go to IndyCar. He should definitely go to IndyCar.
Yeah. Yeah, damn. I wasn't expecting that much of a rant. Good job, Mark. No, seriously, that makes sense. Career choice wise, why wouldn't you go and make money and race, which is what you claim to love? Why would you hold on to a dream that's fleeting very fast? And this could be that could also be an opportunity. I know it's very different in many different ways, but it could be an opportunity for him just to find his bearings again and find what he loves to do. Because we all saw the quote after the US Grand Prix. He is miserable, and he said it was painful to race at what is probably one of his favorite Grand Prix. So for me, I'm on board with you in the sense that it definitely makes sense for him to maybe move on and try something else, because he's not going to get an opportunity.
I will say this though, there's a race car driver in the likes of Scott McLaughlin, who came over from Australia. He's an Australian race car driver, raced in Australian V8 supercars, and he won, I think, 7 championships in that. He's a good friend of Daniel Ricciardo. Well, he's actually a New Zealander. but he's a good friend of Daniel Ricciardo. He came over from supercars, made the jump, and he's excelled at it. He's done really well in the ovals. He's done really well in the road courses. And let me just say this: the cars that IndyCar is currently driving right now, they would be made for Daniel to race in. They are so suited to his driving style. They are so suited to the tracks that Daniel knows and loves. He's won at Monaco twice and has absolutely demolished Monaco a few times, but had a bit of bad luck. And the way that those tracks are set up in America, they're exactly the same way, but just a little bit of a faster Monaco. He would thrive over there, 100%.
All right, so guys, we're going to be starting a new segment in the next video, and that is get Daniel Ricciardo to not NASCAR. I almost said to NASCAR, IndyCar. We've also had another guy in Valtteri Bottas who kind of briefly spoke about potentially going to IndyCar, and Mark is all for it apparently. Obviously Valtteri's also had a bit of a down year considering where he was last year, and he was asked about potentially going to IndyCar, and he's not opposed to it. He's, I think obviously F1 is where he wants to be as well, but if he's not in a winning car, it would make sense for him to go somewhere where he can be better positioned to win, and maybe Daniel needs to listen in on that just a little bit.
Exactly. And Valtteri's 100% right. Another thing that IndyCar does well is you never know who's going to win a race. Those cars are set up exactly the same. They have all the same parts. They have all the same engines, although they do have two manufacturers, Chevrolet and Honda. But it's a spec series. Anyone can go out and win. Anyone. So I commend Valtteri. If he has a down year next year and decides to say, bye-bye, Alfa Romeo, I'm going to IndyCar, that's probably the best career move that he can make. There's another F1 driver that's done it, and that's Marcus Ericsson.
Oh, yeah.
And he's won races.
Yeah.
He won the Indy 500.
Yeah.
He won the Indy 500.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, damn, I forgot about him. Yeah, but yeah, going to Valtteri, if he decides to leave Alpha, he's basically doing the anti-Kimi Räikkönen, who basically just wasted like 2 or 3 years of his life at Alfa Romeo, trying to fight for second to last place. So
fighting for the drink.
Yeah, fighting for the drink. Thank you, Kimi. But yeah, no, I think that Daniel should definitely reconsider his stance. Maybe he will. Maybe it'll eventually hit him that he has a good opportunity in F1. But if he doesn't, and he decides to be a reserve driver, well, then I just hope that for FP1 in Las Vegas, he gets to ride the track, because that's the closest he's ever going to get to it. Alrighty, well,
that's for sure.
Yeah, well, if you guys have made it this far, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. We appreciate all the support, and we'll see you guys in the next one.